Calling to order the regular meeting of the Wheeling Plan Commission for Wednesday, January 24th, 2024. I had 23 written down. Please join us for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Commissioner Riles is absent with previous notice. Commissioner Meyer is absent with previous notice. Commissioner Casper.
Present.
Commissioner Sprague is here. Commissioner Smart.
Present.
Commissioner Heiken.
Here.
Chairman Johnson.
Here. Ms. Nyes, any changes to the agenda this evening?
No changes.
Citizens' concerns and comments? I don't believe we had anybody sign up. And we have no consent agenda, so we'll move right into items for review. And docket number PSU 23-0017, request for special use to permit an entertainment establishment for Headless Horseman Arcade at 1918 South Wolf Road. Mr. Secretary?
Uday Kumra Lisi is seeking special use approval pursuant to Title 19 zoning of the Wheeling Municipal Code, Chapter 19.10, use regulations and associated sections, in order to permit an entertainment establishment for Headless Horseman Arcade, a video game arcade facility located at 1918 South Wolf Road, which is Zone B3, General, Commercial, and Office. A special use is defined in the zoning code as a use of parcel of land that requires review and consideration before approval due to the potential for negative impacts on surrounding properties. In order to be considered for a special use, the petitioner is required to demonstrate through testimony to the Plan Commission at a public hearing that the request meets the standards of the village code, including but not limited to how the proposed use will not damage the enjoyment or use of the surrounding properties. Prior to public hearing, the petitioner provides written statements meant to show that the request meets the standards for a special use as established in Title 19. The commission chairperson will typically direct that these statements be entered into the record without a full reading of them at the hearing. Based upon the testimony and supporting materials submitted, the Plan Commission will make findings in support of or against the petitioner's testimony and report those findings to the village board.
Thank you. Ms. Nyes, anything on this?
Sure, just briefly that Mr. Coomer was here before last year at a different location, and the Plan Commission didn't have any problems. It was just a problem with the location didn't work out for him, so he did not move forward with that special use review at the village board level. So he's found a new location here in this Wolf Plaza Shopping Center. Oh, wrong mouse. So there's currently a vacant space. He would be taking that last space up in the shopping center. And there's plenty of parking in the shopping center. And he's not proposing to serve any alcohol, have a daily admission. And staff does not have any proposed conditions for this special use.
All right. And the petitioner can come up. Since it's a public hearing, I need to swear you in. Do you swear the testimony you're giving tonight to be the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. State your name and business address for the record, please.
My name is Uday Kumra, and business address is 1918 South Wolf.
Thank you. What would you like to tell us about your project?
Oh, okay. So this establishment, it's going to be an indoor entertainment establishment. It's an arcade, a lot of classic games that many people have grown up with, and that they can introduce to their kids. And so what it's going to provide is it's going to provide a lot of fun, competition, camaraderie among people. It's going to be an entertainment venue where people would come in and they'd pay an admission fee for the day, and then they would play. They can play all day, and then if they were hungry, they wanted to go get lunch, they can go out and get something, and with the receipt, just come back in for the day. So it's unlimited play all day, which a lot of places don't have.
Okay.
You know, or they can go shopping nearby and come back, something like this. You know, it was all inspired by, I brought a guest here. He's the owner of Galloping Ghost Arcade, Doc Mack. He's been running 14 years strong in Brookfield. This place is gonna address a need to provide entertainment for pretty much all ages that are, you know, willing to come and try it out. There's nothing like it in the surrounding area. You know, it's like a trip back in time to the 80s and 90s, you know, where people, they look at things and they get nostalgic about it, you know, playing Pac-Man on a machine or hitting that pinball machine, you know, just to get the ball in the right place. You know, there's not gonna be any coins or cards to worry about. It's all gonna be everything's gonna be on free play. So they pay the admission fee for the day, and that's it. And once they're done, they would leave. I think that, you know, it's just unlike any other business, I think, in the area. It's gonna provide just this massive draw where, you know, I grow it. It's this huge draw for people to come to Wheeling and check it out. And I think that it's gonna help just all the surrounding businesses. Once they go there, you know, they're gonna be like, oh, there's this massive arcade in Wheeling, we have to go, you know. And then they're gonna have a great time. And then I think that, you know, they'll be more willing to just travel around and see what's going on around the area too. I think it would help the surrounding area as well. I don't think that it would be any detriment to the area. People, you know, they'd be willing to pay to play and come in, and then they would pretty much just leave. There's no spot to really hang out. It's a small walkway in the front, and then they would, you know, park and go across the parking lot into the facility, like a bowling alley or something like that. So, yeah, so, and another aspect of this would be, you know, using online and social media to be promoting everything. People would go in, and it wouldn't be just people coming in and playing and leaving. They would interact somewhat by, you know, trying to get a high score, and then those scores would be posted on the internet. And then people would be part of this website where they would look on there like a membership and see, you know, where they would be competing with each other. So they would get a message saying your score was beaten by this person. Come in and try to challenge, you know, this person's score. There would be, you know, refreshments, snacks. Nothing would be cooked there, just pretty much snacks and several beverages. Area on the side where people can sit down and just take a break for a while. You know, that would be promoted because, you know, you want people to take a little break from staring at the screens, you know. I think that, you know, for a lot of people, it's gonna provide something different. Like when they go in, you know, they're gonna feel like they were when they were a kid again. They're gonna feel like they're gonna remember, you know, oh, I played this at a pizza parlor when I was a kid. I did this, you know, I got here and I never saw this game again. Oh, this is amazing that I can play this again. You know, things like that. It brings back a lot of nostalgia. I think it helps a lot of people that normally wouldn't be interacting with people and talking to people. They would get together and start talking to people, you know, and I've seen this firsthand at my friend's arcade too. So I think I think it's a good thing that brings people together, and I think it's something that would be very beneficial.
All right. Well, welcome back.
Thank you.
We'll see if the commissioners have anything. Let's start with Commissioner Casper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm looking at this diagram, and each of these black things to me looks like you're looking down at an old-fashioned razor blade. So for each one of these units, how many games are there, or is each one of these just one game?
So it's not to scale, and it's just a representation of possibly maybe 6 games in a row.
Okay.
You know, the dimensions of the games are like usually 3 feet by 3 feet, with the front sticking just out a little bit more, and each tile is about 1 foot by 1 foot. So I kind of went off of that.
Okay, so just overall terms, approximately how many games do you anticipate you would have once you're up and running?
Once I'm up and running, about 100.
There'd be like 100 positions for people. to
Right,
apply.
but that would grow eventually. It would keep growing. So
Okay.
just to keep things new,
Right. And how much will the daily fee be?
$20.
Is that for adults as well as children?
Yes,
Okay. Will you have a policy about telling people they're not allowed to bring in outside food and drink?
yes.
Okay. Last question is, what time of day during the school year would school-aged children be allowed to come in?
So unless there's a holiday, like a known federal holiday,
Yeah.
they're not allowed to come in before 4 PM.
4 o'clock, okay,
Yeah.
all right. I don't even know how long the school days run this year, these days. That's all I have, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sprague.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening.
Good evening.
The only thing I saw that I was wondering whether we need to address is the times for Friday and Saturday close.
No, we don't, for business licensing, we don't regulate the hours of operation unless it's tied to a liquor license.
So it's okay for them to be open till 2? Okay, that's all I had, thanks.
Commissioner Smart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Capacity?
Capacity, I don't think there would be more than probably 80 people at a time, I don't think. With the size of the space, because people come and go, it's not, they stay for 2 or 3 hours and they leave. It's rare to have people stay there all day.
And presumably that's dependent upon how many games you have up and running.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Commissioner Heiken.
Thank you. So I'm confused now. So you're saying only 8 people maximum will be in place at one time?
No, what I was saying is maybe the capacity of like 80 people.
80, okay.
Yeah.
So that leads to my question. What are you doing about security there?
Security, so there's going to be just that entrance, and on the sides, there's just going to be a barrier where people can just come in on each side, so somebody will always be at the front.
Okay.
I didn't anticipate any need for any type of,
So
security,
what about
policing.
loitering in the parking lot?
as far as what, I'm sorry.
People gathering in the parking lot? You have anything?
I've never really seen that.
Okay.
They just come into play and they leave, you know.
So your target customer is what age?
It's really any age, but, you know, I think the people that appreciate it the most are anywhere from like teenagers to 40-somethings.
Okay, so when you're open and child is out past curfew, what happens? Are you going to let them stay till 2 in the morning, or you have to leave, or?
Well, you know, their parents should be with them.
Okay,
If not, you know, they would have to be called. I would have to talk to them. and
okay,
tell them.
those were just the concerns
Yeah,
that I had.
Yeah, I definitely.
Okay, that's all I have, thank you.
support that, so.
The only thing I want to note is that you probably need a designated smoking area outside, because still smoke, and
Okay,
so we'll have to, I don't know if that has to be a condition.
I don't know that it needs to be a condition, because it's usually part of like the site plan, and they just need to set it up with the landlord in the
Okay,
area
so-
to have signage.
Okay,
I don't think it needs to be a condition, though.
all right,
Just if they're gonna have an area, they need to have the sign that needs to be 15 feet from the doorway, or?
yeah. All right, fire department, any comments on this one?
We've walked through the facility with Dave and have kind of talked to him. It's a fully sprinklered building, which is good. He's going to upgrade, put some fire alarm notification devices in there and stuff, so we're all good with it.
So capacity-wise?
Yeah, capacity, I'm sure, I haven't taken the measurements and dimensions to figure it out exactly, but it would definitely be way more than 80, his capacity limits, I'm sure.
Good. Much better location for your use than
Yeah.
what you tried over here. At least you have parking and it's safe
Right.
parking. I had no other questions. Anyone else with any questions? All right, how about a motion then?
So moved.
Second.
Casper and Smart. Commissioner Casper,
Yes.
Commissioner Smart,
Yes.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Commissioner Heiken,
Yes.
Chairman Johnson.
Yes. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so
Any idea on when this might all happen?
A few months from now.
Okay.
okay, well, you'll still need to go to the village board to get final approval on February 5th,
Okay,
so we can talk before then.
okay.
So-
All right,
All
thank
right,
you.
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We need a motion to close PSU 23-0017.
So move.
Second.
Aiken Smart.
Heiken, Smart. Commissioner Heiken,
Yes.
Commissioner Smart. Mr. Casper,
Yes.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Chairman Johnson.
Yes.
Anybody else?
All right, now, next we have a few items all related to a plan unit development. Since they're all pretty much connected, we're gonna open docket PRZ 24-0001, a request for rezoning from B3 General Commercial and Office Zoning District to MXC Commercial/Residential Mixed-Use Zoning for Forrest Capital LLC at 350 East Dundee. And we're also going to open docket PPUD 23-001, request for preliminary PUD approval for a proposed four-story mixed-use commercial/residential building on a 4-acre site for Forrest Capital LLC at 350 East Dundee. Mr. Secretary.
Forrest Capital LLC developer seeks a rezoning from the B3 General Commercial and Office Zoning District to the MXC Commercial Residential Mixed Use Zoning District pursuant to Title 19 zoning of the Wheeling Municipal Code, Chapter 19.14, Ordinance Administration and associated sections for the property located at 350 East Dundee Road. A rezoning is defined in the zoning code as an amendment to the map and/or text of the zoning ordinance to effect a change in the nature, density, or intensity of uses allowed in a zoning district and/or on a designated parcel of land area. In order to be considered for a rezoning, the petitioner is required to demonstrate through testimony to the Plan Commission at a public hearing that the request meets the standards of the village code, including but not limited to how the proposed zoning is desirable in the village and is compatible with the contributes to surrounding land uses and zoning. Prior to the public hearing, the petitioner provides written statements meant to show that the request meets the standards for rezoning as established in Title 19. The Commission chairperson will typically direct that these statements be entered into the record with a full reading of them at the hearing. Based upon the testimony and supporting materials submitted, the Plan Commission will make findings in support of or against the petitioner's testimony and report those findings to the village board. Forrest Capital LLC, property owner, is seeking special use approval for preliminary planned unit development, a PUD. Approval as required in Title 19 zoning of the Wheeling Municipal Code, Chapter 19-10, use regulations and associated sections for a proposed four-story mixed-use commercial residential building on a plus or minus 7-acre site located at 350 East Dundee Road, which, what's that? A special use is defined in the zoning code is a use of parcel of land that requires review and consideration before approval due to the potential for negative impacts on surrounding properties. In order to be considered for a special use, the petitioner is required to demonstrate through testimony to the Plan Commission at a public hearing that the request meets the standards of the village code, including but not limited to how the proposed use will not damage the enjoyment or use of the surrounding properties. Prior to the public hearing, the petitioner provides written statements meant to show that the request meets the standards for special uses established in Title 19. The Commission chairperson will typically direct that these statements be entered into the record without a full reading of them at the hearing. Based upon the testimony and supporting materials submitted, the Plan Commission will make findings in support of or against the petitioner's testimony and report those findings to the village board.
All done?
Yep.
Ms. Nyes.
Okay, so we currently have 2 public hearings open. We have the rezoning, you can see on the map here, they're requesting to go on the left side. They're currently a B3 zoning. There's a commercial building out there now, and they're proposing it to be rezoned, the entire property, to the MXC, that's mixed use commercial, so that they can do an adaptive reuse of the building that's been vacant for quite a bit of time, and turn it into about 20,000 square feet of commercial on the first floor, which includes medical office. And then the second, third, and the new 4th floor will have 55 residential units. So that is our one item. And then the second item is going to be the preliminary planned unit development. So that's the first step in the planned unit development process, is preliminary. Once they go through this phase, they'll then come back for a final planned unit development. So there's also a third item on the agenda for them, which is their preliminary plat. So the preliminary plat is because you can see on this drawing here, you can see some little lines. This property is divided into 3 properties right now. So for the plat, it needs to be consolidated into one unified property. So we'll deal with the plat after we deal with the first 2 public hearing items. So I just wanted to say a couple things before we have the petitioner come up. So I have all of their items that are in the packet up on the slide, so anything you guys need me to flip to, you let me know. So they have the site plan here, where they're adding the new walking path. There's the building. We have new parking on the west side, new parking on the south side. And what I just want to point out, for a planned unit development, it allows flexibility in the development. So they come up with a list of planned unit development departures. So it's not like they're coming in with a request for a variation. They do these departures that all come together with this whole PUD. So the departures they're requesting are to increase the building height. So right now, it would be a maximum of 50 feet for building height, and by adding that 4th floor, they'd like to go to 57 feet, 10 inches. For residential, because they're redeveloping it to add residential, there will be a requirement for covered parking, that half of the required parking would need to be covered. So they are requesting that no covered parking be provided, and staff fully supports that. They are also requesting a reduction in the minimum unit size. So for their 1-bedroom unit, their smallest size is under the minimum required unit size of 675 square feet. What they're asking for is consistent with other current developments, so staff is fine with that as well. And then they're also asking for a reduction in the parking ratio for the medical office. So staff does feel that there's enough parking on the site, so staff is fine with that. So pretty much the rezoning, the landscaping, the lighting, everything that you've seen in your packet, staff was fine with. That they just had the one outstanding issue of the elevations, and that was just a last-minute change to the plans that were submitted in January. There was a downgrade to the building materials, and that's just led to them not being in compliance with the village code, and so that's why staff is not ready for this to move forward to the next phase. So we can talk about different options or different questions. We'll let the petitioner move forward or talk about this, and if you have any questions or want to see anything, I have some of the slides broken down, so if you want to look at the materials more closer, I believe you probably have a material board. So I think we can just let the petitioner go from here.
All right, then let's have the petitioner, whoever's going to speak, come on up and get sworn in.
I'll be one of the speaking people.
Okay.
My name is Forrest. I represent the developer.
Swear the testimony you're giving
I do.
tonight to be the truth.
I do. So,
And I believe everybody else wants to get
Yeah,
sworn in at the
these
same
are,
time.
I was gonna introduce, my team here, but I was just starting. So anyways, with me tonight, I have our engineer, Cliff Toberman, and our designer, excuse me, architectural designer, Mr. Anthony Abruzza of Forza Design, and my son. He's
And-
our IT guy.
And you guys swear that testimony you're giving tonight to be the truth?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Tiny correction, Marcy. So we do not have a one-bedroom apartment that's, 600 square feet. Those are studios.
Oh,
There's like
studios. Sorry.
6 of them,
I
I think, in
apologize.
the whole project. I think 6 of them in the whole thing.
Okay.
Our one-bedrooms are about 730 to 820 square feet, roughly, overall. So we don't really have that, as an issue. So we think, just to introduce ourselves, my family bought the property in 2005. We've owned the property for an extended period of time and then transferred our interest to Cedar Street Company's downtown developer. This is whom we're doing this joint venture with. We're buying back into the building and they're remaining as our partner in the deal. To say a few things about the project, we think it's something new for the village. Obviously, it's taken us 7 months working closely with staff to bring you what we have now. So I think what we started with was, has been redone a number of times, like 5, I think, so over the last 6, 7 months. We think what we're bringing is an exemplary project for the area. It's something new, but it's something that has been done. And as we know, the current environment for office buildings is probably way worse than bad. This building has been sitting vacant for almost 5 years. Unfortunately, it started with the bank leaving and then everybody else just, left the property. We weren't able to replace the tenants. Not even smaller tenants. We weren't able to do anything about that for an extended period. And we had national representation on the property and still we're not able to do that. So the thought came to mind to do what we do. Our company has done adaptive reuse ourselves. Without our partner, Cedar Street, we've done projects in Evanston, projects in Melrose Park. Happy to provide addresses. Cedar Street themselves, the head of the project was not here. Alex Samuilovich has probably overseen a couple of million square feet of conversion. Of that type of conversion, office to residential conversion. Cedar Street is probably 3rd or 4th largest conversion developer in the city, and now they're a national developer. They do work all over the states, excuse me. They're doing projects in Florida, California, Minneapolis. They're all over the place. So this is too small for them to handle, and that's why we're handling it on the ground for them. As I said, I brought here with me, our architect and our engineer to answer any questions that you may have. And that's really all I got.
All right, well, we'll see what questions we do have.
Let's go.
For commission, we're covering both the zoning and,
May I distribute, so the one issue that came up regarding the non-conforming stucco product, it is not a stucco product. This is a product we actually used recently in our project in Birdies Park that we're involved in Mark Smith and the family. So this is actually and I brought samples so that everyone can see what this is. Sticks together. Thank you.
all right, so we are discussing both the zoning and the preliminary plan. So we'll start down at the other end with Commissioner Hyken.
Okay, so over the zoning, I have no issues at all. That's,
Okay.
thanks for working that piece out. I do have a parking concern. You have, not in the plans, I saw nothing for electric vehicle charging.
Yeah, I
do
think we
believe that's
missed that one, and we're definitely going to correct it.
Yeah, I believe that's new, a law now, so.
Definitely going to correct it.
And then what about signage? Where are you putting signage?
We're leaving the signage as where it is now.
Okay.
We're not, excuse me, we're not moving or increasing any signage. It's just the 2 monumental signs that are there, they're going to remain. Plus, the retail stores will have signage very similar to what's across the street.
Okay. And then the ephes is what's changing?
Yes, this is what, we originally proposed to put brick, on the paneling.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it's a lot of weight for pre-stressed panels. These are pre-stressed panels, so if we are to put that much weight on them, it's a lot of questions, that we would have to go through. So that we felt that this product, I'm happy to bring it over here and show it to you.
So on this rendering here, which is ephes?
Everything that goes.
The one
around
that's up on the,
Sure. Well, the lighter color is ephes, and then the darker color is cladding that we also brought with us. And I'm
Okay.
happy to distribute that.
So to kind of further explain, as a means of creating like these accents, we know that we have this, giant object, concrete object. And as a way to accentuate and to create these like reveals, originally, like Boris said, we wanted to go into masonry, working with a structural engineer and coming across more and more issues on that, introducing this EFA system and to really accentuate the storefronts and to give it, to give the building life so that it's not so flat, and creating these different reveals as of, especially from that corner of Milwaukee and Dundee. I
Right.
think that it would be really prominent.
I have no problem with the way it looks. I was just curious about how that was. So that's all that I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Smart.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I understood it correctly, when you were at concept review, there was brick, right?
Yes,
And that has come off because,
due to the constraints of the actual, so the existing facade, it's a stressed precast panel, and these precast panels, it's a cement facade from the outside, but what that means essentially that most of these panels are all hung. For us to add the weight of that existing brick as a means of creating it so that it adheres to the building and it doesn't want to slip away, that it was creating a lot more problems as a means of like stress points within the panel. And our structural engineer really made the executive decision as a means of cost, what it was going to take to perform that versus going with this system, which is a lightweight system. And we feel that we can get some more accents on it and reveals going with this.
so I guess that's my question. Is this a cost issue or is this a structural issue? where this-
It's a structural issue that leads to cost.
It's both.
There's no issues without money, so it leads to a bigger cost derivative as a means of us changing.
Okay, so when,
Structurally, it's a structural issue that equates to cost, and hence why us going with a system like this brings the project back to a standpoint for us to handle it.
Again, bear with me with the history on this. When you were at concept review, you had the brick portion though.
Yes.
And that was because?
Because we didn't do the research on the panels. We didn't know that the panels were pre-stressed panels. The building was constructed with pre-stressed. So originally, we wanted to put balconies on that. That's also a problem, because once you start cutting that panel, it's no longer a pre-stressed panel. So that was the issue that we ran in with our, structural. Excuse me, if we breach the panel, we have to shore it up. And that means we have to shore up the entire building. We might as well just remove them and install new. And that would be like building a new building.
Okay. Okay.
So the lighter, the lighter color is the ephes, and the darker color is this cladding that I just dropped off the brochures on. But that's what it looks like. That's the material. We can pass this along. Give me the other one, please.
Oh, you got one.
And as you can see, the lower portion of the building will be clad in this stone.
Which is, what kind of stone is that?
This is a natural stone. Natural, weathered edge,
Wisconsin. Wisconsin bend. Yeah, it's the same.
So that does not create a structural problem.
No, because that's at the first 4 feet.
It can't go higher.
Yes, that just sits at the first 4 feet. And that would essentially, we'll be creating steel stud, like a whole frame to create all these accents. So we'll create this rigid steel frame, and then from there, with exterior sheathing, and then these types of finishes.
Okay.
And that's meant to be hung.
Okay.
There's like
All right.
metal slats that go.
Thank you very much. No other questions? And I have no questions on the zoning issue.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sprague.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, guys. Glad you're back to try and move this project forward.
Glad to be back.
I guess the elephant in the room is the change on the facade. When you came to us, we approved something completely different to this. I'm wondering, now I've heard your reasonings for having to change the material, but why did you veer away from the color schemes?
Because we felt with the, with the difference, with the wood-looking cladding that we installing, we thought that this would mix better, just looks better. I mean, that's up and open. We can change the color of the ephes, but it just works better with the wood cladding. No,
Yeah, I
style
just,
cladding.
I mean, you knew what was approved,
So
and
we
then
only
you
went to
veer
the
away
board
from
for a
that.
preliminary. We
What's
haven't
that?
been, we've only gone to the board for a preliminary. We haven't been in front of the, of this, zoning board here.
Right, right.
So whatever we brought to the board was prior to us actually doing physical work inside the building, doing some things like research on the structural research inside the building. This isn't a stucco product. This is a product that's used everywhere in the city. As a matter of fact, we just used it recently in the village. So it is a lot of product in the village.
So
But we
our,
can come back to the colors.
Yeah, the colors are not an issue. It's just
Yeah.
representative to us. It felt that this was a better color scheme using the wooden cladding, wooden style cladding. This is actually a metal product, but it looks like wood.
We're using these on like a lot of Panda Expresses, on a lot of corporate accounts. It holds up in the weather great. It's a super heavy product. It's meant for the exterior.
and do they provide that material where it would look like brick versus a flat panel or wood?
Not this particular product, no. But I'm sure there's product out there.
Because that would have been a way to get around your,
Yeah, we couldn't find anything, there's shorter size, shorter size planks that we could use, but not brick-looking stuff. You know, it looks very fake, to be honest with you. The stuff that you can buy is in panels, and you can attach it to that. It just looks very fake, and it doesn't, we
Over
would have
time.
seams over time. It would be visible. Where this is like a flooring, it's very tight. It's in place, it's rigid, and it's installed into a structure, a metal railing.
And the sun doesn't fade it.
Yeah,
and
the
it
sun
holds
doesn't
up
fade it
against
because it's
ice.
in the metal.
well, I can't speak for the rest of the commission, but me personally, I prefer the look of the original approval versus what you've come back with as far as,
So would we, but unfortunately, imagine having to replace all the panels around the building and install new panels. That leaves only columns in place and the foundation. That's it, nothing else. So we might as well build a brand new building. It'll be cheaper.
no, I understand that part of it, but as far as using the ephes, is there a way of possibly using it in colors and material that would look closer to what was originally approved?
So I'm sure we could look into it, but to be honest with you, I don't know how we can stamp ephes. I'm sure maybe it could be stamped. I don't know. To be perfectly frank with you, I don't know. I don't know whether we could stamp it, and if color scheme change would require us to change the cladding as well. Not that we mind too much. It's not like we've already purchased the material. We're looking into it together with everyone else here, with staff and yourselves, is to find the right mix for the building so that this is a long-term investment for us. As I said, we've been involved in this property for a very long time. So yeah, if it's possible to do it, why wouldn't we? It's just a matter of us looking at it and saying the pre-stressed panels are just not designed to hang stuff on them. They're just not. You can't cut them. You can't monkey with them. Then you got to replace them. And replacement is a cost issue, as Anthony aptly pointed out. If we start replacing those panels, we might as well leave it alone.
All right, well, let's,
Commissioner,
like I
zero
said,
problem in trying to find a way to stamp this, and zero problem in changing the color. The change in color will just carry a different color in everything else. That's about it.
well, we'll
It's
have
not an
to,
issue. It's not a personal preference here,
okay, yeah, that's just myself. I don't know, like I said, the rest of the commission will have to wait.
Honestly, I didn't choose
We'll have to wait and see what everyone
No,
else?
honestly, I didn't
Yeah,
choose
how-
the colors. They
how
were
they feel.
chosen by the architects putting together the whole color scheme, the panels and everything else. I didn't care whether they were beige or whether they were, light gray. To me, it didn't make much difference.
Okay, moving on here. There's some trees along the north side of your parking lot there, along that fence.
Sure.
Is that going to be addressed as far as, they look like they're quite overgrown, there might even be some dead
There's an
ones?
extensive landscaping plan, there's a lot of new plantings. As staff may attest to it, it's extensive landscaping plan.
And some of them are growing over into the residential area.
Once we're there, we're absolutely going to clean up everything. And also, we're installing an irrigation system, which is not there. We have to install a brand-new irrigation system for it. So we are removing some trees
There's
in
going
the
to
front.
be a substantial amount of site cleanup
Yes.
as a means of like just cleaning up
It's
things
a
that are weeds that have
significant
turned to trees, that have turned to something else.
Yeah.
There'll be a
You
substantial
have to
amount.
consider
of
that
cleanup.
property hasn't really been looked after for 5 years, so everything's overgrown, so, yeah.
The new lighting that you're going to install in the parking lot,
LED.
I'm just concerned about any spillage over into the residential to the north also.
No, actually, we've been in the discussions with the firm supplier of the lights, and the way they're positioned now, they're going to remain that way and/or directed internally and downwards.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and they provided a photovoltaic drawing to show as a means of the difference of residential
Yes,
to
sir.
retail. And
Yeah,
those
the
differences.
photometric is right there. I mean,
Yeah,
it's,
I looked at this and I did
Right.
see, some minute numbers going over into that area, but I don't know for sure what that translates to as far as how much light. So I just want you to be aware of not,
Almost
I
definitely.
think that the bums won't like
Shining
us too
into
much
their-
because the light will be going into the Forest Preserve, and they won't like us too much, but yeah, there'll be a little light going that way. I've been telling that story to everyone. I've had people in there like you wouldn't believe. And as a matter of fact, over this weekend, we had frozen pipes, police department there, fire department there, because some kids threw a rock in, and it got really cold, as we know, as everyone knows here. And so once it thawed out, there's only one pipe that wasn't completely closed because it's a city, product, and it's an 8-inch pipe. So it was a little bit of flow in it. Now the entire building is with water. So we're cleaning it out, drying it out as we speak. Well, not right now, but yeah, yesterday and then today a little bit. And they're just kids, but they broke probably $20,000, $30,000 worth of glass on the first floor, and we kept boarding it up, and then finally we gave up, and I don't remember who asked us to do it, but we boarded up the entire building. Didn't help, did it? They're still breaking stuff. It's amazing to me. I've been in this area for a very long time. I've never seen anything like this, It's like a magnet for people, for vagrants. It's just horrible, I mean, I own a property right down the road, literally like 500 feet from there for 30 years. And I've never had these kind of problems,
were you going to keep the trash on that loading dock there?
So that's a work in progress.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out what is the best location for it right now.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the fact that you're going to have trash sitting right next to the main entrance where your residents are going to be in and out.
Absolutely, and, not something that we're interested in doing. We are looking for a good location. Possibly there's staff has asked us to provide an easement for a property to the north. And since that's going to change somewhat that trajectory of that driveway, we're considering putting something there.
Actual
next-
trash enclosure,
Yes.
maybe?
Yeah, and then, of course.
Which you would have to come back.
Similar to what,
Right.
similar to what we did over in our court. You guys approved it. It's just a cedar trash enclosure, on concrete foundation. Yes.
Okay. I see that you have, you have 8 units on the third floor, on the perimeter of the third floor?
Fourth.
And then the fourth floor?
No, there are 20 units per floor, except for the fourth floor. So each floor has
For
about
the
20.
studios,
Yeah.
as a means of the.
You're talking rooftop units.
Yeah. The rooftop units?
Exactly.
Rooftop
units.
There's 8, and then 8 on the parapet also?
No. It's all one structure. So currently,
No,
on the fourth
he's
floor,
asking with locations.
That's-
Let me just reference.
on the fourth floor right now, we have a mechanical floor. It's actually just, you know, the chiller, the two chillers that are there. The elevator works and you know, some of the mechanicals. So that is going to be demolished, removed completely, and, you know, an addition to that will be made.
There's 8 on the, what would be
mean
considered the
eight
roof
students?
of the third floor, and then we're introducing another 8 on that penthouse.
Right.
We're talking with the mechanical engineer right now, with the mechanical engineer and structural engineer as a means of possibly migrating those on the third floor and taking those and bringing them on that penthouse area. He says as means of like the structural soundness of that penthouse, at a time it carried like 250 square foot per foot. He goes, that is built tough, definitely built tough. So he feels that he could eliminate a lot of those units, especially by the private deck areas and the public deck
You're
areas.
not really interested in putting it next to a private deck, you know?
No.
That's obviously gonna-
Yeah, that's was going to be my next question, is how you were going to,
And as a means of where we stand, as a means of like through this review process, some of the questions that have come up as a means of like more decisive engineering and the harder questions haven't been really unveiled as a means of going through this process and kind of finding out some of these tough questions and, you know, getting some tough answers. But
The design is beautiful, but sometimes, you know, the works of it are, you know, different. And so there will be some minor changes to it, like, you know, especially with HVAC systems. We're definitely interested in moving them away from.
yeah,
the private
because you'll
residences.
have the vibration and the sound.
Sound and the look itself is not very appealing, you know. So, yeah, absolutely. We're looking for a better spot for it, but I think MEPs are gonna be the ones who are gonna dictate where this is gonna go, because, you know, we're gonna have to drop something in the center of the building and, you know, and they'll have to dictate where it's at. The distribution is easy.
And we've thought out areas as means like for the Black Hood, for makeup area, as a means of getting restaurants in that restaurant as part of the restaurant row corridor plan. So we've been really going through a lot of the existings of the building and realizing that, one, the building electrically is a powerhouse. So that we feel as a means of the comment of the electrical charger.
Third of wheeling with that thing.
It really is something. So that really helps us in even our potential future tenants as a means of getting this, getting tenants in there and getting tax dollars.
The mailbox location, you said you're going to have like a mail room, you say?
Yes, so off the, what we would call to the north of the property, where the designated residential entrance is, adjacent to there, we'll have, as an entrance, we'll have a dedicated mail room, and then we'll have an additional package room, so for the Amazon boxes, the UPS, so people don't take stuff. And then in addition to that, we have bike storage, also accessible right there, so that it makes it convenient. You don't have to bring your bike through, 400 feet of tunnel to get out.
How about fire equipment access? You have a room
Yes, we have a
dedicated just
giant
for
sprinkler
that?
room.
And is
It's
that,
existing.
Yeah, so off to what I'm facing, it would be the northeast corner.
northeast?
There's a designated as a means of maintenance entrance or a fire entrance there that's next to the pump. And then they have direct access from the outside. So we'll have a Knox box.
It's an existing.
Doors.
Yeah.
What was the reason why you need the extra height on the building?
So the building itself is 57 feet 10 inches to the top of its existing parapet. And when we found, we did a FOIA for the as-built set, and then when we received that as-built set, it was like, whoa, this is actually quite higher. And as a means of reflecting that, just making sure that when you submit drawings and it says 5710, why, you're not allowed. So it was a means of getting it corrected, but also on record.
I think the only increase we're proposing is
That's
the
it.
units on top, that's about it.
No, but it's existing.
Height-wise, yeah.
All right, so the main thing, it seems like you've addressed most of my concerns, or will. It's just the matter of the facade on the building. Staff isn't too thrilled with it either. And
I think there was a misunderstanding. I believe that.
depending
staff
on what
thought
the
this
rest of the commission has to say about it,
Right.
maybe we'll need to,
But I think staff thought
Work-
this was stucco, and this is not stucco. This is a completely different product, and it's actually designed for exterior of the building. It's made for it.
Well, we would need to see some actual new renderings if you're going to change from what
That's-
you're showing us now.
Well, we're not planning to change from what you're seeing now, unless we find here that these are not the color schemes or not the products that the zoning board would like to see. But at this stage, this is what we're proposing to build there, is the exactly what you see in the color scheme and in the product that we brought here today.
All right, well, we'll see how it goes tonight.
Thank you.
That's all I have, thank you.
Commissioner Casper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, gentlemen. I have 3 very quick questions and then just one comment. I just want to confirm that all of the residential as well as commercial spaces will be rentals and not condominiums, right?
And
Rentals.
Okay. Have you had any prior experience with doing a project like this, specifically with the non-residential stuff that's like in the middle of the second floor? I think I'm looking at here where they've got the flex office space and the storage and that's kind of unusual. I don't think I've ever been in a building like that.
So, if I may, with my experiences, we did Cinespace Film Studios, and that
You
was
speak a little louder.
we did Cinespace Film Studios, and that was roughly about 3.5 million square foot of the Ryerson facilities downtown.
Okay.
We also added a 500,000 square foot brewery. So we have kind of a background in taking existing spaces that are necessarily, some of those buildings were 100+ years old, and giving them use. So at the end of the day, to have such a core building, it's a massive building, and we've gone, I mean, Boris and I have been probably discussing this project for the last 3 years as a means of different scenarios, ideas, even as a means of just trying to rent the offices. And as we were coming through this residential process of, hey, could a project like this suffice? Could it work in the village of Wheeling? So we looked at coring out the center to creating atriums, glass atriums, and all types of different schemes, not only for the beauty of the project, but also to get more units, frankly. And kind of going through the exercise as a means of then talking to the structural engineer and then realizing that what we were trying to really, what we were going to try to produce was not going to be as realistic as possible. So then we took a step backwards, reevaluated. Post-COVID, we saw a call for, in a lot of bigger buildings, to come up with creative ways to eat up some of the space. And some of those ways as a means of this flex office. So it is different times, and regardless of how you feel about going back to the office, not going back to the office, work from home, there are a need of people who do work quote-unquote remote, but still need to have an actual space to work. And frankly, we thought that this would be a great opportunity to entail it into our development as a means of, if you're going to be, not stuck in your place, but if you're in your home and you're in your home for an extended amount of hours, this gives you the ability to communicate with other people. So it's more of a social experiment. So to fill this space inside, these are some of the ideas that we came up with. And then in addition to storage, I mean, storage for anyone, and I don't care how large your home is or how small, there's never enough storage. So giving the ability to have storage in some of these other amenities is the workout area, and then the roof deck. We think the roof deck is going to be a really nice addition for this project.
All right, so I've always been a big fan of repurposing buildings, old buildings especially. I hate when they tear something down, especially if it's significant. This is not the case, but I like the concept of what you're doing, and obviously you can't just fill this all with commercial tenants. So I don't mean any disrespect, but can we go back to the very first slide that showed the cladding or whatever? Yeah, so I don't mean any disrespect, but when I first look at this, and I still can't get past my first impression, I regularly take more than one train line into downtown Chicago, and I go through areas that are being redeveloped and areas that are blight. And when I look at this light brown cladding, or whatever you want to call it, to me that looks like plywood, and it looks like something that's been boarded up. And I don't mean any disrespect, and I'm not trying to nitpick here, but that, to me, just doesn't make a really good first impression, especially if you're driving by at 60 miles an hour on Milwaukee Avenue and get like one quick look at it. So again, I don't mean any disrespect, but I really just, I don't think this is a very good look. That's all I have to say.
Would you prefer to see it cladded in the same product?
In
Would you
what?
personally like to see the same product in the place of the cladding? Excuse me, the ephes. To you personally, just as a personal thing, would you prefer to see a same product, ephes, just in a different color accenting it?
I think maybe the color, I mean, you know, from, like I said, from driving by or from spending a lot of time looking at it, that might make it appear different. But I mean, you know, the flip side of that is you've done something creative with this big, white, stark piece of architecture.
Do you have a sample of the wood cladding?
So, you know, when we bought the property in 2005, it was completely vacant except for the bank, you know, on the first floor. And,
Want to pass this to Marcy?
Is this what, is in this
That's-
picture, is this, okay?
Yes.
so there's different colors in this.
Those are colors.
Okay.
These are big pieces.
Yeah.
It's just that we felt that that particular color scheme, and like I said, I didn't choose it, but we felt that it was a good color scheme. If there was a question as to the color of ethos and the color of the flag, it's obvious for this discussion. We did not, like I said, we did not purchase this already, so, you know, whatever it is that we can all decide on, it's not an issue with us.
You're looking at these two colors.
Yes, and that's a, and this is a fair, I'm sorry, what Mr. Casper, Commissioner Casper has, that's a fair to see it.
That's heavy.
So what's solid material?
Again, I don't mean any disrespect, but I see these buildings and it says so-and-so board up
Right,
service.
so they're
And
just,
it's like, well,
rendering shows.
you know, okay, if they're fixing something
What is
up
the
or they just want to keep it
That's that.
secure, but
No, it's not, no.
No, and,
great color.
and I'll have to get, we'll have to present to you guys, some actual facades.
Can't hear you, could you?
To get some actual facades, pictures of facades that have done with that product, so that you could see it, and, you know,
Alright.
and it's just just frankly a bad rendering. Not
Okay.
a bad rendering, but the coloring on it,
That's
the
fine.
scale.
That's all I have, thank you.
See, we're painting the building, and, you know, in a darker color, then we're installing a lighter color cladding and a lighter color ephes to play, you know, and then metal. So we've got wood-looking product, metal, and ephes, kind of very modern, you know, very to date, if you will.
I don't have anything else, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so you just brought up painting the building. Just to clarify, in this drawing, this rendering, what's painted?
The darker areas. I mean, it doesn't have to be. We're just trying to find a color scheme for it. And at that point, the only color change you may see is the around the windows area.
Yeah, I just think there's some confusion with the materials and the painting and the coloring. So normally on the elevations, like, you know, there's the legend here, and so the Plan Commission is looking for, they saw the cladding, and then they didn't see any painting.
Yeah, we removed, as a means of this rendition, we did remove the paint, leaving the existing aggregate. as
Right, so now it's
per that
confusing
color.
looking at this
Yeah.
and seeing the dark brown building, but it really, if you,
Yeah,
if you
it's
weren't
the
painting it,
rendering,
it's a little confusing.
Yes, oh, definitely.
And so then this didn't really look like the brown. I think that's what Commissioner Casper was
Lighter brown
saying.
is the cladding.
So
The lighter brown.
I think there's a little, and then I'm not sure exactly which one of those products is going to be
I mean, color-wise. It's the same product.
on this main, in the main pieces here. And
So we were.
and then also on, yeah, there's just some confusion. So what color is this? And so the question with the ephes is that the ephes just in our,
It's not light, by the way. This is the structure that goes on.
in our design guidelines, ephes can only be used as an accent material. And so this, as it's being brought out as a primary building material. And that's where the confusion
We're only
But-
presenting the around the cladding and
And I'll get the square foot of like the amount of ephes versus like per face to show as means of what the existing facade or the aggregate is left alone, and then showing the ephes as a means of, you know, and I think we'd be well below probably 25% of the
Right, and then
existing
just the number of different materials.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Steve wants to jump in here.
I'm about to ask Steve to jump in, but
We only have two materials, actually.
Well, you have the cladding, you have the brick, and you have the ephes.
We have,
And
Well,
then you
there's
put
no
the-
brick.
You
mean
said
the-
there's brick at the bottom.
It's not brick, it's natural stone. But that's, you know, that's
But
actually,
that's-
a village requirement.
and that's only like
Right.
30 inches maybe?
Yeah,
4 feet.
4 feet.
4 feet?
Yeah, that's a code. I mean, if you want to remove that, I'll gladly take that.
No, that's not the part that needs to be removed. so.
Get this out of my way. Thank you. Okay, so we are hung up on the ephes, and now we threw in painting of the building. Steve, any more input from staff on this?
There we go. So as was indicated in the staff report, the staff had noticed that or observed that there was a departure or change from what had been previously proposed through the revisions between staff and the petitioner in preparing the preliminary PUD packet to present to the Plan Commission. So with the last submittal that we received, which was the submittal to present forward tonight, in analyzing the elevations, that's when staff noticed that there was the change as discussed tonight. Staff wasn't provided any additional background or information as to why the change. So, and given the deadline in which the staff report had to go out, and the fact that this was public notice, and we were working with the petitioner to meet this meeting time that was being requested, we wanted to make sure, we wanted to obviously provide the staff report and continue to have this presented at tonight's meeting.
Were you aware of the painting part of this?
No, that was also provided at the last submittal without any additional context. So there was really no context that was provided. So staff had to work with what we had to prepare the staff report and the commentary and to fill in the gaps the best we could, because again, there was not enough time to coordinate. Those things usually occur in the background prior to presenting and getting in front of the Plan Commission. So unfortunately, we didn't have any further time with that. So without any of the context as to the whys, it was the fact that the primary materials of the ephes, which we understood that's what it was. The plans identified as synthetic stucco, but we as staff know that as ephes. That is becoming a primary material, and that is a principal concern of not only staff but of the design guidelines, because now that is starting to be the forefront material rather than the background material of the existing building. Clearly, ephes is used in the village. It's allowed material within the design guidelines. It's used pretty heavily within commercial applications. However, it's very, very clear that ephes shouldn't be used on the ground level. And so this is being brought to the, essentially, last few, I would say maybe, 2 feet to the ground, and then we have the stone. The stone is also mislabeled in the elevations as well. The stone in the elevations that were provided indicated synthetic stucco, so we assumed that was also, because we just had to go by the plans. So now that we understand that there are stress limits to the building, which were provided to us, as you noticed, there were no balconies, and as was presented, the reason why there weren't any balconies was because of the structural stress on the panels, which we understood. Once we were provided that info, we understood, look, that's just something that we cannot do with this building. There are limitations with an existing building. You can't have it all since it's not built from the ground up. So understanding that there are structural limitations to that, now we know that is understood. Staff is able to consider ephes and work through that. I think the concern being at that ground level, and I think an appropriate compromise would be whether or not that first level, the first floor level, being some sort of a face brick or something like that. Seeing that it's at the lower level, there shouldn't be as much stress force on that. I don't know, I'm not a structural engineer. Obviously, the higher up you go, I think you're creating more stress, more forces that way. So I think to not only appease the ground level, which is what most people interact with, and as you go up, you don't see as much detail vertically. As we go further up, we can transition to the ephes, and that's not only consistent with what's been done throughout the community. Usually the ground level, you have stone, brick, things of that nature, and as you go further up, you have the ephes. I think that would be an acceptable situation here to address not only the costs as well as the limitations of the building, the structural limitations of the building, but also achieve not only the design requirements of the design guidelines, but also the desires to see this building be repurposed into something that is one of the key corners of the village.
So if they were to take the stone full height of the first floor,
That, or I think if we have the ability, pending, further structural analysis or the comfort level of the architect, is to maybe bring back in some of that brick, that face brick, and bring that in so you have the stone column base, and then we work on the vertical element for that first floor, the first 10 feet with the brick, and then as we proceed, as the design proceeds vertically, it transitions to the ephes then, and then you have the ephes as you would see, floors 2 through 4, then at that point. Obviously, the detail gets further, any of that detail you really only capture at the ground level anyway. So as we go further up, that's not, that's something that is acceptable in the sense of you're not going to be right up against that, you're not going to be able to touch and feel it. So from that perspective, and then, from that rate, that might also help with the coloring, because now you're bringing in, we can bring in that brick again and have a color, and that may further influence the color, since that also seems to be a concern of the Plan Commission's, that color balance.
okay. Now, we'll circle back to the elevations in a minute. And one of the elevations was labeled wrong. Sheet A5.1. Got north elevation labeled as west.
So if I may address this, the brick situation. We started on this about 8 months ago with staff. Overall, we were, hoping to get through the process in the timetable that we discussed with staff and legal. Unfortunately, all the changes that were made through the 7-8 months that we've been at it on this have, had a negative impact on the project financially because of the interest rates. Everyone understands that. And unfortunately, economically, because no one can wait that long. And when we originally started this project, we were hoping to be in construction right now or somewhere at this time, 7 or 8 months from the beginning of something like this. It seems reasonable. But at this point, we're way beyond that timetable. We've lost a tenant already that we're hoping to replace. That's obviously on us. But to add to this, I have to be perfectly honest with you. The amount of brick that we would have to install on this building leaves me to think that maybe we should just not do the brick and leave leave the areas from 4 feet onwards the way they are. Because if that is the only way, if you feel that this will be commercially presentable, then the product that's on there now is has been on the building for 20 years. We don't need to mess with it. We can just leave everything the way it is and only install the stone on the first 4 feet. Besides what I just mentioned, this project started out by us looking to sell a piece of this land to the neighbor. The neighbor to the, to the east of us, Dr. Now it escapes me. So whatever, yeah. The gentleman who owns the lot to the east of us came to us and wanted to purchase the northern portion of our parking lot, which is underwater. And we spoke to staff about this, Steve, right? We did speak about this originally, and then we were told that because this was part of the original on-site detention formula, that we would not be able to sell the lot. So the deal over this particular project over the last 10 months has increased in cost, I want to say by at least 20+%. And, this is an economics thing. This is not something that we can just draw. This has to make financial sense to our lender, to anything else that going forward. We have to be able to operate this. We can make this anything that you want us to make it, but economically it has to make sense as well.
Well, as you've gone through these 5, 6 revisions, have you been working with staff? Because
We never
it seems like
requested
they
this.
were surprised on
We
the
worked with
latest.
staff very closely. The only changes that we proposed were to the EFS, and I believe that was, due to it's not something that we just decided to do. This was, put in our lap because of the circumstance, because of the pre-stress product, and because of, this would be very difficult weight-wise. We would have to bolt it to the ground. There's a lot of things involved.
This really got pointed out to us as a means of when we were looking to locate the rooftop units and working with the structural engineer as a means of just overall loads. And then he kind of came back at us and said, brakes, guys, brakes, but, the brakes. And it's like, well, we're trying to present this to staff, as a means of, getting us through the process. And this is where a lot of these issues have come up. So for us to alternate this in a quick time to try to present this and put this together to you guys.
As a group, we've done just a ridiculous amount of square feet conversions. And obviously, if we feel that we need to make changes to it, we can. We're happy to address whatever questions, that are outstanding. But to say, for example, the first floor, if that is the most important part of this, then we'll just won't let it. We won't put EFS on the first floor columns. We just leave it the way it is and install the stone the way the code requires it, so that there will be not another request for not a variance, so that we don't add that to our ask and just leave the product the way it is. It's the simplest way of doing it and probably the most economical and the fastest. And I think that the awning that we're providing is sort of breaks, between the first and second floor, and it should be fine if we were just to do the EFS from the second floor onwards. It will not change the look of the building itself.
Well, we would have to see drawings or renderings on that at least.
Well, the building would stay the way it is. The only difference, I understand that, but the only difference is the requirement of the 4 feet of natural. So that would be the only thing that would change that. Everything else would remain the same as it is now.
Steve, any comments on that?
With the preliminary PUD, it sets all the groundwork for the final PUD, which then all that detail is within that preliminary. And so it's very challenging to incorporate all these changes after.
Right.
So the final PUD that comes in, that just needs to show that the final engineering has been completed and any final further calculations have been done, so that if there's any adjustments that are done before the final stamp is given to then issue permits. It's, the preliminary feasibility, it's all these site furnishings, lighting, all of that established that foundation. So for the PUD code, the result will be set forth, in order for it to be completed and completely active for reclamation and
Are there any other places they can compromise? Get closer to what we originally saw?
It all I think there's always design is always subjective. So and there's a lot of balance that can be done. Focusing on primary elevations rather than all the elevations. There may be maybe a better focus to focus efforts on the south elevation that faces Dundee, and maybe save some weight on the east and west elevations, although that they're the longer, largest elevations, but those are the side elevations that aren't as visually,
Yeah, the west
obvious.
elevation is blocked by
The
park.
by Friendship Park and things like that. So maybe there's not as much weight that needs to be provided and cost and attention placed over there.
There's areas of play, to go back to what you said, I think we could accentuate some of the areas as a means of.
Yeah, I think there's a way to balance that out and continue with the ephes, but see how high we can bring the masonry. If it's not 10 feet, maybe it's 8 feet, maybe it's 7 feet, Again, understanding the limits of the building, we don't want to go beyond that, because obviously this is something that we want to see move forward, and we want the project to go to fruition, and don't want to have long-term complications down the road. So all those things, I think, are there and available, and staff's willing, to consider those and make those suggestions. But it's hard to do that because that requires additional time that on certain ends isn't
Right.
there.
Okay, not sure where to go with this. Any recommendations?
We could try and remove, for example, some of the cladding on the fourth floor. If it's, if it really throws it out there, we can, remove that and use, well, it'll be brick, it'll be cement, cement bricks. It's a different product, but we'd have to cover it with something,
I think a color rendition.
Yeah,
I
we
think a
can-
color rendition of different epheses, of the different materials and different colors, I think we could really accentuate it and make it look much.
I mean, in all fairness, we just felt that their ethos is used in so many commercial, buildings, not only around Chicagoland, just about everywhere. Every shopping center that you hit on, everywhere, every strip center uses ethos. Well, they used to use stucco, but no one uses stucco anymore. And it's holding up. People are using it. It's a daily use product. So I don't know how this would not hold up in the long term.
Well, it's the amount of it, right, that we're talking about, and the location
Yeah,
of it.
the amount, again, without any context, that, we saw that the amount of it, and again, the design guidelines about stucco or ephes not being used on the ground level. So those are the two elements, Again, if we address the ephes at the ground level, that is something that's been consistently done in the village, where we have masonry materials on the ground level, and then we proceed up to ephes, things like that. That's very, very commonplace in the village and very consistently been applied in many projects. And-
So would you prefer to see
they-
old
this
brick
is
or
what they
this?
want.
Or you want the flagstone? Are you saying that you'd like to see old brick per se, brick, like common brick? Or are you talking about using this kind of a product?
Yeah, no, face brick, yeah, no. Nobody
brick.
uses, when I say brick masonry, the modern application is not the full standard block anymore. Nobody's doing that. It's the face brick.
So we say keep this.
Yeah, so-
That's
We
what
can just do, from the ground up, we don't have to use the stone, we can just use brick all the way up. I know,
Yeah.
listen, we did this in Prairie Park in the last building. We got a 12-foot high wall of this product that no one's ever gonna see.
Yeah.
That's no one ever, because there's a deck there. I don't even understand why we did that, to be honest with you. But
And exactly, that's what I'm saying, as you proceed vertically, that's what I'm saying, staff is understanding that, and we, in transitioning to the ephes as you go vertical on floors 2 through 4, I think that is
you know what,
understandable.
if
and
everyone likes
logical.
the brick, so be it, if we can do brick, if we don't have to use the face stone, we can just do brick all the way up to the end of first floor, and then continue with ephes as you just recommended,
Yeah, from staff's perspective, that's, I think that is, again, understanding the limitations of the building.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
not a problem.
that is something that achieves not only the design guidelines, but also it's suitable to staff. And then it's just a matter of, the pattern, the color, and how it transitions vertically from floors 1 to 2 and beyond.
If it works for you guys, it's fine with us. It's, that's not an issue.
You would need to redo your material and share it with staff, so we could
Absolutely, of course. you know?
And,
I mean, everything will have to go through them, no matter what.
I-
It's like I said, we've been in close contact for the last close to 8 months, you know, a little more than that even. So,
And
yeah.
as far as painting the building, it's not a problem?
I mean,
Well-
we've experienced over the last few years of buildings being painted in a variety of colors. I think, again, as long as it's a balance, it's consistent with what
And
we've
it's high-
done throughout the village.
high-quality stuff?
Right, correct.
Don't go to Home Depot and and get a roller?
Special.
I honestly want to say that our reputation as a developer speaks for itself. The product that we've put out there previously, similar type of conversions, you're welcome to see it. You know, all you have to do is hit their website, and you'll have a number of addresses that you can drive by. If you're going downtown, there's probably about 12 buildings or 14 buildings downtown, Commissioner Casper, that you can look at, touch, and feel. So, you know, quality-wise, you know, that's...
All right, so, anything else before we move on here? As Commissioner Sprague mentioned, the rooftop units that are on the third floor, right above somebody's apartments, I'm hoping you can rework that.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. As I mentioned, it's an MEP issue. The engineers will have to direct us to where we can take this, you know, without, so that it's not visible and not in the way. I honestly felt very uncomfortable with those units being in front of a private residence. I wouldn't want to see one in front of mine.
You can screen them or whatever, but
You can
I'm
screen
thinking
them, but-
more about the people that live underneath them.
Well, there's a lot of room between the floor. You know, there's actually a significant amount of space, and so, you know, it's designed so that there's no vibration.
Oh, okay.
It's, the
how are
people
you
living
gonna-
on the fourth floor will not be bothered by the HVAC.
How are you going to handle HVAC in each of the units, each of the apartments?
Well, it's, you know, it's dropped to the floor and then, you know, distributed. So,
Do they each have a unit?
no,
or
we weren't planning on installing, we were planning on installing, you know, an HVAC system that will accommodate each floor, you know, individually broken out by units. I mean, we originally thought of doing mini splits, but they would make the building look horrible.
Yeah.
And we actually looked and talked to our HVAC folks. It's just, you're gonna have these little things all over the place. And, you know, that's just not gonna look good. You guys will never let us pass through it. And
You'd
I
have-
personally
And you'd have to cut through all that pre-stressed.
couldn't do that either. No, you could stick those in the window, believe it or not. We could
Oh.
close out one of the windows and do it, but that's really not the quality of product that we're trying to bring here. You know, we've been in Wheeling for an extended, I mean, before he was born, and he's 22, you know? So, you know, it's just, I'm not gonna screw up my own village. It's just crazy.
Well,
Can I make a suggestion?
yes, absolutely.
So the next potential board meeting that you could get on is not until March 4th,
Wow.
because they only have one meeting in February. So if the Plan Commission wants to take a poll
Continue
to
this.
continue it so you can bring it back to the next meeting. I think that's staff's
All
recommendation.
right, well, let's ask the commission. If you feel we should continue this to our next meeting, Commissioner Heiken?
Yes, go ahead, continue.
Mark?
Absolutely.
Commissioner Sprague? Most definitely. And Commissioner Casper?
Yes, sir.
All right, and I would agree. So, in the meantime, take what we've given and work with staff. I think now that they understand more about the stress on the structure of the building, there's some compromising that can be done. Correct,
The next
Steve?
Plan Commission meeting is February 14th. So you would come back to the Plan Commission on February 14th.
So
And then the
right after
next,
that, it'll be a year since we started. 1 year.
and then the board meeting after that is March 4th.
I'm gonna, you know, thank you. Thank you
Well,
very much.
hopefully, yeah, we can wrap it up at the next meeting and get it to the board at their next available meeting. So we will continue both of these
And the Plat.
and the plat. So I need a motion to continue
February 14th.
PRZ 24-0001 and
'Cause I'm gonna have him work on
Sprague and Heiken. Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Commissioner Heiken?
Yes.
Commissioner Casper?
Yes.
Commissioner Smart?
Yes.
Chairman Johnson?
Yes. And that was for both of those, right?
Both or all three?
No. We haven't even talked about the other one. So we will need to continue docket PSUBPP 24-001. Request for preliminary plat approval for 350 East Dundee subdivision for Forrest Capital LLC, 350 East Dundee Road.
Also, if I may, there's no such company as Forrest Capital LLC. It's a combination of two names, Netter Capital, which is our firm, and Forest View LLC that was supposed to be.
Yeah, that's who's submitting the checks or who's writing it in there.
Netter Capital was submitting checks for the
Yeah,
permit.
I don't know.
Forest View is the LLC that's actually doing this. But it's okay, we can.
I don't know, that's what. how it's
We should
going.
get it right on the
Yep.
record. So I need a motion to continue the request for preliminary plat.
So moved.
Second.
Sprague and Smart. Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Commissioner Smart?
Yes.
Commissioner Casper?
Yes.
Commissioner Heiken?
Yes.
Chairman Johnson?
Yes. All right,
Give me
so
1 second to catch up on the motion.
see you in a couple weeks. Hopefully, no, it doesn't give you much time. It's fire.
Kyle something. Well, I guess it doesn't matter now. I can do it next time.
One second, let's break and Smart.
Kyle,
Yeah.
I know we're continuing, but was the, all the retention and compensatory storage all satisfied?
Yeah, they didn't, I mean, the site was already existing, and there was only a minimal amount of new, I guess, impervious. It was out, that particular impervious was outside the flood zone, so no comp storage. They provided a small, detention basin off of the Milwaukee Avenue side, so, yeah, all the stormwater-related stuff is, yeah, it's been addressed.
Okay, good, thanks.
Yep.
All right. So that's been continued. So next up, we have docket PSU 24-0002, request for amendments to special use ordinance number 5387 for Birdies Car Wash at 966 South Milwaukee Avenue. Ms. Nyes?
Okay, so the petitioner is requesting a modification to their special use, which granted special use and also site plan approval and appearance approval for the construction of an automatic car wash. And the car wash is under construction, and it was found that they were not adhering to the approved plans, and they were notified. They received a stop work order, and now they're here to request approval to use different building materials on the main building and also on the trash enclosure as follows. So there's 5 different changes that they're looking for. And I tried to show just this main building here. Oh, I'm using the wrong mouse. So it's basically, the main building had brick on the top, and then it was showing stone veneer wainscot at the bottom and stone veneer columns. And those are the 2 big things that they'd like removed. So these columns, they did not put in, and the wainscoting stone at the bottom, they did not put in. They also want to remove some of the windows on the north building facade. They also want to remove the arched openings over the garage doors on the entry and exit. And there's a change to the refuse enclosure, which I can show you that. So these are kind of hard to see in these elevations, so if I could just get to the pictures. that'll show you the differences. So you can see here on the left is the approved, and on the right is the proposed. So on the left, you can see there's these columns, and there's stone on the bottom, and on the right, this is how it was constructed, where there's just all brick and no columns and no stone on the bottom. So that's the first request. You can also see on the entry garage door, it's straight across on top. The arch was not put in. You'll see that is the same on the exit. It's straight across on the top, and it was proposed to be an arched doorway. This is just another view looking to the southeast, which you really can't see much, but it had columns and this wainscot on the bottom, and now the building is just the solid face brick. There's no stone, but the stone was put on the east side and the west side on these main larger columns. So you see the lighter white stone on each end of the building, and then the brown brick on the main part of the building. So it still meets the intent of the building, of the design guidelines. And that's why staff is in support of this change. If they had come in before they had made this decision, it was just a misunderstanding with the architect and the construction manager. If they had come in before, staff would have still recommended approval for these changes because the building is still all brick. It just, the stone on the bottom and the stone columns are being removed, and there is no design guidelines for putting an arch in above a doorway. And the last thing is with the trash enclosure, again, the bottom stone is being removed. Again, the whole thing is brick, so it still meets the design guidelines. The last thing is with the pay station. The stone on the bottom is no longer there. It's just all brick. One last thing is the footprint of the refuse enclosure got larger because they couldn't fit all of their vacuum equipment in there with the trash dumpsters. So it got larger, so they had to change their landscape plan a little bit. So when we amend the special use, it'll have this new site plan, new elevations, and a new landscaping plan that went from this small refuse enclosure on the left side to this larger one on the right side, and the change in landscaping associated with it. And we also did require them to add a new 8-foot tall wood fence on the north property line, which was not part of the initial approval because the fence that was existing got damaged during construction. And that's all I have. The petitioners are here.
Come on up, guys, and thank you for your patience. Is there anything you want to add to what Ms. Nice has said? And state your names and business address.
Neil
on the
Patel,
record.
Recent Construction, 711 North Elmhurst Road, Prospect Heights, Illinois, 60070.
Paul Khanna, 133 Salbrook Drive, Brook, Illinois,
Thank you.
62523.
So he's the owner of the property.
Can you swear them in?
It's not a public hearing.
Oh, it's not, sorry. That's my bad. We were talking about special use. I was thinking public hearing. but this
Yeah,
is amendment.
well, that was my confusion too.
Nope, that's okay.
I'm construction manager contractor, Paul's the owner. So we work with Marcy, where the stop work order came kind of as a surprise. We did hire an architect to get the plans revised. This original project was owned by someone else.
Right.
Paul's team bought it from the architect and the design. And then as we were going through the project of trying to get it under budget and stuff, we had come up with some soft cost savings ideas to potentially get it under budget. We had hired the architect, spent quite a bit of money, have him update the plans. We were on assumption they submitted everything to the village and everything got approved. 6 months later, we find out, or how many months later, that they never got approved or never were submitted. So luckily we had the plans ready to go. So this stop work order came like 2 weeks ago. So we got everything resubmitted immediately because we had the plans besides the renderings, and those were updated. The trash enclosure got larger because, as Marcy said, the previous one just wasn't functional. They would have stuff sitting outside of it. So that's pretty self-explanatory. The windows got removed because there was two on the north side of the building, they actually look into the equipment room, and the amount of equipment that this car wash is getting, they needed the wall space. So it made sense to get rid of them, and they're pretty much camouflaged. The stone wainscoting and the columns, we took those off that side, obviously, one for cost savings, and two, they're pretty obscured by landscaping, once the landscape and the bushes go in on the wainscoting. So we said, it made sense to save it, to take that off as well. Those are the major changes I think we had. The arched is kind of self-explanatory. That's just an expensive item that kind of put us on budget, trying to get the car wash in our budget. So that's really it. The fence, as we talked about, it was actually in real bad shape before we took over the project, and we kind of knew it was going to be replaced. The city noticed it, so that was a plan all along, because it needed to be replaced regardless. So that's kind of everything I have to say.
Well, at least you didn't change the type of materials as you.
No,
heard
yeah,
from
we didn't go from brick from siding or to ephes.
Okay, let's see if anyone's got any questions for you. Commissioner Casper,
I don't have any questions.
Sprague,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All my questions have been answered. Thanks.
Commissioner Smart,
No questions tonight, thank you.
Commissioner Heiken.
No questions, thank you.
The only thing I made a note of is don't forget to get a permit submitted for your ground sign.
Yeah, I think they're in for permit now, but I think they've kind of
Not
put a
for
whole.
the ground sign.
Oh, the ground sign. Okay, I'll let the owner know. I'll let them
The
know.
wall signs have already been
Yeah.
permitted or
Okay.
in the process, but yeah, when you go to your ground sign, because that'd be another surprise
Yeah,
for you.
and you'll have to come back here for the ground sign permit approval.
Is that always the case? Brandon? Okay, I'll let them know. That won't be me, but I will let them know.
If there's no other questions, I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second,
Smart and Heiken. Commissioner Smart,
Yes.
Commissioner Heiken,
yes.
Commissioner Casper,
Yes.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes, Chairman Johnson.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, so you'll also go to the March 4th Village Board meeting.
Okay,
And you can talk to Ross tomorrow about your construction schedule.
sounds good.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When are you opening?
As of right now, I'm end of Feb.
End of what?
End of February.
February?
Yeah,
Oh,
end of
okay.
February. That's, the car wash company equipment's in there right now, putting in, they have like a 5 to 6 week process. ComEd's supposed to power us this week, but we're still waiting. Nightcore is supposed to be out there next week. So hopefully, if those come to fruition,
Great.
we'll be end of Feb.
Good luck.
All right,
All right.
thank you.
All right, approval of minutes of the regular meeting of January 10th, 2024, including the findings of fact for docket number PV 230010.
So moved.
Second,
Sprague and Heiken. Commissioner Sprague is a yes, Commissioner Heiken?
yes.
Commissioner Casper?
Yes.
Commissioner Smart?
Respectfully abstained since I was not present for the meeting.
Chairman Johnson?
Yes. We have our four.
Yes, we do.
All right, other business, Ms. Nyes.
No, I think we'll have a full meeting on February 14th. So,
Sounds like it.
yeah, that's all I have.
Then it's 3 weeks from today.
Oh, yeah, this is a 3-weeker, huh? Just curious, did anyone make the soft opening at, was it Armo?
Not me.
No? Nobody made it? I was gonna try, but nobody made it. Okay. Nobody from staff even got there? That was a very soft opening.
I did hear they're gonna have another, like a big opening.
Well, I'm sure they would have a ribbon cutting and all that. All right, any other business, Commissioner Heiken?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Commissioner Smart?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Sprague?
Nothing for me.
And Commissioner Casper?
Nothing.
All right, then, you know what I would entertain is a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Smart and Heiken.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.